Ghostly tales, yet mirrors of human life. Hey, everyone! Welcome to Encountering Chinese. Ghostly Tales from Zhai. Today, I'm going to tell you a story called Mural. Meng Longtan, a man from Jiangxi, and a scholar named Zhu, came to the capital city to participate in the imperial examination. Coincidentally, they both stayed at the same inn. Upon meeting, they decided to travel together. One day, the two of them strolled around the capital city and happened to enter a small temple. The temple appeared narrow, with cramped halls and rooms for the monks to reside. Inside the temple stood an old monk. They inquired if he lived at the temple, but the monk shook his head, explaining that he was a wandering monk and only temporarily staying there. Despite not being a permanent resident, the monk warmly welcomed them. Guiding them around the temple, the old monk explained its various aspects. As they reached the center of the Buddha hall, they saw a statue of a revered monk named Baoji, with exquisite murals adorning the walls on either side. The characters in the murals were lifelike and vivid. On the eastern wall, there was a depiction of a group of women showering flower petals from above. Among them was a woman with her hair loose, holding a flower in her hand, seemingly smiling. Her small cherry-like mouth appeared as if about to speak, and her affectionate eyes seemed to convey a message to the viewers. Scholar Zhu stopped in his tracks and gazed at the woman in the mural for a long time. Unknowingly, he was carried away by his thoughts and drifted into a trance-like state. Suddenly, he felt himself slowly floating up, as if riding on clouds and mists, and he flew into the mural. Once inside the mural, Zhu saw a myriad of palaces and buildings that seemed entirely different from the earthly world. Looking up, he noticed an old monk seated on the highest cloud, expounding Buddhist scriptures. Numerous other monks dressed in robes surrounded the old monk, attentively listening to his teachings. Zhu stood among these people. After a while, Scholar Zhu felt as if someone was secretly tugging at his sleeve. He turned around and saw the woman from the mural. She smiled at him faintly and then turned and walked away. Zhu lifted his feet and followed her. They passed through a winding corridor, and Zhu saw the woman entering a small room. He wanted to follow her inside, but he worried that it might be impolite, so he hesitated and stopped. At that moment, the woman turned back, holding a flower in her hand, and gestured for Zhu to come into the room. Overjoyed, Zhu quickened his pace and entered the small room with the woman. Inside the room, it was quiet and empty. Zhu boldly approached and embraced the young woman. Surprisingly, she did not resist, and the two of them began to coexist as if they were a married couple. After a while, the young girl stood up and walked outside. As she was leaving, she reminded Zhu not to cough or make any noise. In the evening, the girl came back again. This continued for 2 days. The young girl's companions noticed what was happening and came into the room to search for Zhu. When they saw him, they teasingly said to the girl, "Oh, your baby in the belly has grown so big already. Do you still want to keep your hair loose and pretend you are unmarried?" So, they all brought hairpins and earrings, urging the young girl to tie up her hair in the style of a married woman. The girl blushed and couldn't say a word in shyness. At that moment, one of them loudly said, "Sisters, we can't stay here all the time. It will make the guest unhappy." Hearing this, they all laughed and left the room, leaving Zhu and the girl alone. As Zhu looked at the girl again, he noticed that she had her hair tied up in a high bun, with hairpins gracefully adorning it. She looked even more enchanting and alluring than when her hair was loose. Slowly, he approached the young girl, wanting to kiss her. The girl's body emitted a fragrance like orchids or musk, captivating Zhu's senses. However, suddenly they heard the urgent and loud sound of boots and the clinking of chains from outside. It was followed by a cacophony of voices and commotion. After a while, the young girl got up from the bed in fright and together with Zhu, they secretly peered outside. There, they saw a messenger clad in golden armor, with a dark complexion, holding a chain and a large hammer. The other girls surrounded him. The messenger asked, "Is everyone here?" The girls replied, "Yes, everyone is here." The messenger continued, "If anyone is hiding a mortal, you must report it immediately and don't get into trouble yourselves." The heavenly maidens all responded in unison, "No one is hiding." The messenger then turned around, scanning the surroundings like an eagle, as if searching for something. Inside the room, the young girl was extremely scared, her face pale like ashes. She anxiously told Zhu, "Hurry, hide under the bed." She then opened a secret door on the wall and quickly escaped that way. Zhu crouched alone under the bed, terrified, not daring to make a sound. After a while, Zhu heard the sound of the messenger's boots coming into the girl's room. And shortly after, he left again. Not long after, the chaotic noise from outside gradually faded away. Zhu felt a bit relieved, but there were still people talking outside the door, causing him to remain fearful and anxious, hiding for a long time. Finally, he started experiencing hallucinations, feeling like cicadas were chirping in his ears, and stars were flickering before his eyes. The distressing sensations became unbearable for him. Yet, he had no choice but to wait quietly for the young girl to return. After some time passed, he couldn't even remember where he had come from. Meanwhile, in the main hall, Mang Longtan suddenly noticed that Zhu, who had been standing next to him, had disappeared. He became suspicious and asked the old monk about it. The old monk smiled and said, "He went to listen to the monk's Buddhist scriptures." When asked where the monks were explaining the scriptures, the old monk replied, "Just nearby." After a while, the old monk tapped on the mural on the wall and called out loudly, "Mr. Zhu, how come you have been gone for so long from the Buddhist lecture?" Surprisingly, Zhu's portrait appeared on the mural. He was standing still, tilting his head as if listening to something. The old monk called out again, "Your friend has been waiting for you for a long time. Come back quickly." And so, Zhu slowly flew out of the mural, feeling disheartened and terrified, landing on the ground. He sat down, feeling weak in his limbs. Meng Longtan witnessed all this with astonishment. He slowly asked Zhu what had happened. Zhu explained. I was hiding under the bed, then suddenly heard a thunderous knock, so I went outside to see what happened. Unexpectedly, I found myself back in the mortal world in an instant. Zhu settled his mind and looked back at the mural. He saw the mural of the young girl holding flowers, and now her hair was tied up in a high bun. Zhu was astonished and respectfully bowed to the old monk, seeking an explanation for what had happened. The old monk smiled and said, "Hallucinations are created within a person's mind. How could I, a humble monk, possibly know?" Zhu felt frustrated at this point, as he couldn't make sense of what had just occurred. Meng Longtan, after hearing the conversation between Zhu and the old monk, was secretly amazed and filled with trepidation. In the end, both of them could only bid farewell to the old monk, leaving the temple behind with a sense of fear and confusion. At the end of the story, the author provides the following commentary. All hallucinations are born from the inner world of a person. It is like what wise people have said. When someone entertains impure thoughts, they will imagine indecent scenarios. When someone's mind is restless, they will generate terrifying illusions. Deities often offer guidance to ignorant humans, leading them to experience these illusions. And all these illusions originate from within a person's heart. The kind-hearted old monk in the story empathized with Mr. Zhu and earnestly advised him against entertaining wicked thoughts. However, Mr. Zhu remained entirely oblivious to the lesson. The story also reflects an ancient Chinese tradition. Before marriage, women would let their hair down and adorn it with decorations. After marriage, they would tie up their hair in a bun. This allowed people to easily distinguish whether a woman was married or not. Alright. That's all for today's ghostly tale. Mural. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode.